I figured it wouldn't be fair of me to talk about RC from the Bumblebee Movie Studio series figures if I didn't also talk about her wave mate Ironhide. Now, I've actually discussed this mold in the past when it was Ratchet, but I know a few people were waiting on the red version of the figure, mostly so you could have a toy that didn't yellow overnight. So for those who waited, welcome. Let's talk about how the toy turned out. As you can see, he is a brick of a Cybertronian armored truck vehicle. I actually quite like how this vehicle looks. I'm actually going to switch things up here so I can give you a better look. All right, there we go. Much, much nicer. So yeah, it is a big brick of a truck in a very armored futuristic style. Really, really like the look of this vehicle. I like this very space age look to the window canopy. This is a nice reminder that a Cybertronian vehicle doesn't need to have a cockpit or seat for a passenger or anything. This is just, as far as I'm concerned, optical sensors. I also really like the shape of the grill here too. It feels like a fat bullet because it's just this narrow area that expands out and then the rest is just one big fat armored truck. Love it. So, bright red, brilliant shade of red. The translucent blue that makes up the front is actually painted really well. It matches the red very, very closely. Not a whole lot showing of the robot mode, and a little bit, that's the hips, but it's really hard to tell in the vehicle, so that's pretty well hidden. So, beyond that, we do have gray fenders in the front, but not in the back, and this is weird to me. Like, it really feels off that the front are painted and the back is not. Painted hubs for the wheels, that's appreciated. Really, I hate it when they skip that, so that's nice. I think all this gray in the back, because this is painted and the intersection is molded. So I think it's an interesting choice because it does give him a little bit of a semi-truck look to him, like he's hauling this big gray engine in the back of him. So it kind of pulls away from just being like a Cybertronian van, which is actually kind of a neat design choice. And then yellow stripe detailing on the side. Some of you don't know. Some of you were not around to know just how important that yellow stripe was. We had to fight for that yellow stripe. So when we first, like, remember, Ironhide didn't have a toy between 1984 and 2006. Something crazy like that. So the first time we got it was BotCon, the very first Fun Pub BotCon set, which is 0506, can't remember offhand. But it was it was a van, but it was a silver stripe, and then everyone went, "No, we want a G1 accurate stripe." And then Hasbro, 2 years later, they did their version. They did a brand new mold for G1 Ironhide in the Universe 2 line, and no stripe whatsoever. And we went, "No, Takara gave us a yellow stripe. Why don't we get a yellow stripe?" It seems like a minor detail, but when you're just a flat red van and that's literally the only detailing the vehicle has, it's kind of important to include. So it became a sticking point for a few years. So like I appreciate any yellow stripe on an Ironhide. That's basically the point here I'm trying to make. So beyond that, the tech greebling is really, really nice. I do like all the little details around. Tail lights are molded in, rear bumper, etc. Very, very nice. Really dig this vehicle mode. And of course, we can turn it into a tank on top thanks to the 5mm port the gun does actually stick into. Take it off. Yeah, and you see it's actually like blocky and sleek at the same time, which is an interesting mix, you know? So, we're going to transform this into robot mode. Before I begin, I will state that getting this toy into vehicle mode is kind of a pain because a lot of things have to line up very specifically. So if you're having trouble getting it back into vehicle mode, I'm going to tell you right now, what your biggest opponent to that is probably going to be the feet here and the alignment of the hips. So you're going to want to, if you're having trouble getting all this to align the way you see it aligning here, where everything pegs in, where the forearms peg into the feet and there's still clearance underneath for the vehicle to roll. If that's not working, try shuffling the knee either all the way back or all the way forward. There's a little bit of give in how the knee bends for the vehicle mode. So if you're having trouble, just move it one way or the other, whichever way it's incorrect on yours, you're going to find, the opposite direction. I can't remember which one it is offhand, but you're going to find that that's going to let everything line up a lot closer. It's one of those transformations where the slightest thing off internally, makes everything else a pain. Also, when you're plugging this shoulder section into the hips, there's two gaps in the back, and I guess I should just go ahead and start transforming it so I can show you this a little bit better. Here, go ahead and take these components off so we can start unfolding. So there's how the feet and the hips and all that alignment should work. So unplug the feet, fold these out, fold the feet out completely. Okay, we're going to rotate these components so those fenders face forward. Now, at the back here, I'm going to go ahead and unplug these. So to take a look at the hips, when you have it plugged in, there's these two spots. It looks like it can go in either one. Go for the lower one. The lower one is the one you want when you tab this thing in together. That's going to be the other sticking point to getting this back into vehicle mode. So we unfold all of this. Ironhide, as Ratchet did as well, has some pretty interesting transformation elements to it that make him quite fun, actually. So I'm going to rotate these legs around. The lower half is basically done. So now, look at all of this. Look at all these panels. Look at all this. We have to get all that to fold together into a robot. So check this out. Now, so fold all of this down together. Fold these sections back to form this. Make sure his head goes through this section here in the back. All this should be able to just snap together. And suddenly all those panels are looking a lot more solid. Come around to the back with me. These tabs are going to go into those pegs, so that is going to form a fairly solid back piece if you get lucky and your pegs are tight enough. See, make sure everything on the chest is like mushed down correctly, and with that out of the way, you can go ahead and flip the hands out like so. And that's going to give us Ironhide in his robot mode. So like I said, going from robot to vehicle is a little bit frustrating on him. I don't really like that aspect of the transformation, but going the other way, I actually have a lot of fun with the figure. Seeing all those panels collapse together so well and in such a solid boxy shape, I think is actually strangely satisfying. So that I have fun in one direction on the transformation, but not so much the other. And you're going to run into those transformers from time to time. So what we end up with is a G1 styled Ironhide that is definitely in Bumblebee movie aesthetic, as we discussed with RC. Wider in the hips, a little bit thinner in the arms, but overall, you can see the original character and the intent, and it still looks heavily detailed compared to its original G1 self. And just like RC, fairly clean, and actually cleaner than RC because everything that went into the vehicle's shell collapsed into the torso. So everything folds up very nicely, and even the back is very, very solid, at least by looks it is. So it's actually a really neat engineering job to get a very, very clean robot mode. Remember, everything they produced for the Bumblebee movie had no vehicle mode. They just had to come up with them, with the exception of like the Seekers and Bumblebee himself, of course. Everything else, they just kind of winged it. And Ironhide here, no exception. And it turned out really well for something they just came up with. Yeah, it's a very beautiful robot mode and very beautiful vehicle mode. Really, really dig it. Like everything else with this figure, with this line, I should say, the head is very G1 stylized. However, it does have the movie greebling to him. So there's a lot more lines and cuts in the face. For Ironhide, who's an older warrior, this actually doesn't look too bad. It actually does fit in. You can also see the light piping on this figure is putting in some extra miles. This particular shade of blue is one of the few colors for light piping I think actually works because it tends to light up regardless of how much light is in the room. Generally, Light piping means their eyes look dead most of the time. Ironhide comes out pretty brilliantly blue-eyed, which works really, really well. Okay, we'll stay in close and show you a little bit more of that detail. Now that he's in the robot mode, you can see that Autobot symbol a little bit clearer now that there's something behind it. I think it's a really cool, like, kind of ghostly Autobot symbol. Very present, but not, like, dominating his image or anything. There's that ab section I like so much. Works well as a grill, looks better, gives him this beefy, kind of, powerhouse look to him. The red in the hips is something that is a little inaccurate from the movie mold. That's just because of the shape of the mold and what plastic had to go where. So it's a downside of some of the parts just having to be in that color. Everything else looking very nice. Fake wheels painted on the side. So it looks like all of his wheels are in his legs. They are not. And yeah, everything else. We got some gunmetal painted along the arms as well. Some little bits of silver. Yeah, he's actually pretty well decoed. Now, as I stand here talking, I can hear the rain coming in, so we got to wrap up here before any of the power starts flickering, because this is Florida. That's what happens. Articulation-wise, these figures tend to be as good as you expect for this line. So the head is ball-jointed, nice fluid motion all the way around, 360, a little bit of up and down. Shoulders have that interesting universal motion where it's a hinge and a pin joint, kind of coming together to create a universal joint, but they're two slightly different pivot points. It gets the motion across, but it can be a little bit weird in some angles. 360 degrees on the bicep rotation, very close to 90 on the elbow joint. Waist rotation works all the way around. Hips, great range of motion in the hips, nothing really getting in the way. 360 degrees in the thigh. Nice 90-degree knee bend, and then ankle tilt as well. Tons of articulation to be had on him. As I move around with the articulation, I will say he doesn't feel as stiff or solid as Ratchet does. But then again, I've heard problems people having with loose parts in their Ratchets too, especially the panels on the back. So mileage may vary. I do wish the joints on my Ironhide here were just a little bit tighter than they turned out, but it could just be mine. So that one I will leave to you. Hopefully you have a little bit better luck in joint tolerance than I did. As you can see, it still stands fine. Everything still works and poses. He can hold his massive rifle, and there is no, his arm doesn't slack or anything. So I just like the tolerances to be a little bit tighter than this, but they aren't interfering either. So it's somewhere in the middle of my preferences. But that, my friends, is going to be Studio Series Ironhide, the Bumblebee movie version. He is a very, very nice figure. Once again, I've stated my case on him twice now. Transforming to robot mode is great. Transforming to vehicle is problematic. And then we get a very, very nice looking robot and what I think is a very, very nice looking vehicle. I think overall it is a really, really nice figure, provided you're lucky and get one with really good tolerances. This is one of those figures where if some of the pins are too loose or if some of the hinges are a little bit too soft, it can ruin the experience. But so far between Ratchet and Ironhide, I've had good luck with them. So hopefully you do too, because yeah, he is a nice figure. Guys, I am facing the most powerful enemy any YouTuber can face, the algorithm, and I need your help to defeat him. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and leave a comment. Every time you do, we attack that algorithm and we drive it back until it can no longer defeat this channel. Thank you very much.